see it on my end, so I'm not always sure that we are, but I am your host, Don Costa, here with another episode of the Flip Talk podcast. I swore last time I went live with these that I wasn't going to do it again for a while without, in all the different spots that we do it, but this time I had to. With everything going on in the current market today, I think having the proper funding solutions is an incredible asset to those of you who are, in your business right now and looking to continue to do business and grow your business and make your business happen. So I have a really cool guest with me today. Krista, how are you doing?
I'm so good, Don. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. So we're going to talk a little bit about the funding solutions and stuff that you are able to work with people on. But before I get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about your real estate investing career, because you're not just somebody that's here to talk about funding. You actually did some real estate investing and flipping and stuff, right? Early on in your career. So tell me a little bit about that and how you got started in that and what that looked like.
Absolutely. So I have been investing in real estate nearly full time for the last 8 years. I really got started. It's quite a sad story. I was one of the first people to have to let go of a house to short sale in this country in 2010 after we had the really horrific market crash in '08. And I ended up letting go of my dream property, which was 2 acres of horsey paradise. I ride and show quarter horses. That was one of the hardest things I think I've ever gone through. And about 2 years after letting go of that property and staring at a mountain of debt, credit card debt actually, that I had acquired from trying to save it, my mom invited me to go attend a class. And I really didn't want to go. But once I got there, I started hearing all kinds of discussion about active income, passive income, investment strategies. And really what it came down to was, as I was sitting in that room, I made a promise to myself that never again would I be stuck in a disastrous situation without a plan B. And I wanted that plan B to be real estate. And I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I made myself some pretty big promises sitting in that room that day. And then went out and got myself educated in real estate investing, specifically fix and flip. And started investing in the San Francisco area, down in the peninsula, and then all the way across over into Oakland. Got real heavy into those markets, completely changed my life. It opened up a lot of doors. It gave me the opportunity to help bring the message of real estate to other people, to fly around the country, mentor, teach, and coach for a period of time. And I'm still investing to this day, although taking a break from fix and flip, I'm now focusing on short-term rentals. So real estate is just something that I am super, super passionate about. And of course, there's all kinds of finance options for that. So that brings us to talking about money and alternative funding solutions.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you about short-term rentals. We had a conversation kind of before we started recording, but you have short-term rentals. You're in Arizona. I know that different states are having different challenges. For those listeners here who have short-term rentals, what's going on in the Arizona area for you right now with those? Do you have any kind of mandates, issues, cancellations? Like, what are you seeing in your market?
I'm seeing a lot of cancellations. I have not seen, and I have to be honest with you, I haven't listened to the news with regard to what's happening with short-term rentals in the last couple of days, but I am seeing a lot of cancellations. So we had a major drop-off in rental revenue for the month of March, because as soon as people started realizing they weren't going to be able to travel and move around the way they normally do, everybody's vacations got canceled. I had a vacation I was going on in April, and I was forced to cancel that one. So we're seeing a lot of cancellations right now. What we are also seeing that's so interesting is I got a text message today from my property manager, and he was telling me that we're getting offers for people to come in and just actually rent the unit. And that's because we've got college students that have been asked to leave the dorms. They don't really have anywhere to go. So they need a place to stay for the next couple of months. Maybe some of them are going home, some can't go home. So we had an offer this morning for somebody to come in and take that short-term rental for the next month. So we're negotiating on a price for that right now. It won't be what we would get, obviously, if it was rented out, just one particular renter at a time, but it is going to cover our cost, which is nice.
Yeah. So I know that there are different challenges in different areas. I know Florida as a state has basically banned all short-term rentals, and we're going to see kind of how this plays out. It'll be interesting how the states are doing it differently, I guess. And
yep.
So, okay. Well, the reason why we're here is money, and money is the topic that everybody wants to know about. And with, again, right now, everything going on, I think people are looking for options and opportunities to access capital now more than ever. So let's talk a little bit about the company you work with, the solutions that they provide, and kind of how that all looks.
Absolutely. So right now I'm working with a company called Sprout Financial. We are based here in Phoenix, Arizona, all working from home right now, of course. We do a lot in the alternative lending space. Sprout is very, very unique in that most of the time when you think about applying and looking for money, you probably think about maybe talking to various banks, talking to different lending sources that do term loans. You're thinking about maybe credit cards, various lines of credit. What's really interesting and powerful about how Sprout operates is that by coming and talking to us first, we can actually take a preliminary look at someone on the personal and the business side without actually having to do any type of a hard inquiry on their credit, and then provide for them a pre-qualification. We go in ranges of 25,000, so like 0 to 25, 25 to 50 and up, and let them know exactly what forms of funding they're going to qualify for. So in other words, someone might come in and qualify for 0% lines of credit. Someone might come in and qualify for term loans. And a lot of times we have people come in and qualify for both. So by starting with us first, you're actually able to get the widest look at what you're going to qualify for in terms of how much and how it's going to break down. We're also going to be able to tell people whether or not they're seeing any challenges in their current credit situation. So a lot of times now when people come in, they might be overutilized on a credit line. If you have a $10,000 credit card, they might have run it up to 8,000, 8,500, some various number like that. We might need to deal with that issue and help them with that utilization before we can put them in front of banks. We're also going to be able to tell them whether or not they have too many inquiries on their credit, or if there's negatives or derogatories that need to come off prior to going out and putting their foot forward with the banking system. So instead of people going out on their own and trying to understand which banks report to which bureaus, how many banks can I apply to before I start getting declined, what are the banks really looking for in order to approve me, they can come right in our door and we're going to be able to answer those questions for them within minutes. So we're going to take the guesswork out of everything that goes into applying for credit. We also are doing a lot of research and development on the biggest reasons why people are not approved when they go out and start to apply. And the answer to that question is actually quite shocking, why that's actually happening. So we want to help people navigate that. There's about 125 different fundability factors that go into whether or not someone's going to be approved for credit. We're looking at every single one of those when someone comes in.
Okay, can you break some of those down? Like what's something that somebody would be shocked about that is one of the reasons why they're not getting approved? They may have decent credit and everything else looks like it's in line. Like give me a couple of things that they don't know that's happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. The biggest one, fraud. So imagine that you've taken all this time to apply at the bank and you're feeling really good about the information that you're putting forward in terms of you've got a good job, you've listed your income, everything from your perspective of what the bank is looking for appears to be on point. You get into the bank takes a look at it, they reject you. They're never going to tell you that 50% of all applications are being denied for fraud. That is a massive number, half of all applications denied for fraud. But that's actually what's really going on. And the surprising truth is it's really more about the perception of fraud. Now, so if you're listening to this right now and you've ever been denied credit, you're probably like, how on earth, when I'm giving all of my truthful answers, would anybody ever think that I am trying to defraud the bank on my application? Because we basically, by signing, have to say, hey, we attest to the fact that all this information is true and is accurate. So what's going on is in the background, through something called Small Business Financial Exchange, what we affectionately refer to as SBFE. This is a third-party data aggregate, one of several, that circulate information about everybody that comes into the banking system. So here's a really good example. You go into, let's say, Stagecoach Banking, and you apply for a loan, and they ask you how much money you make. Well, I don't have my tax returns from last year in front of me, so I can't tell you down to the penny. So let's just say, for example purposes, I tell them I make $50,000. Now, they're not the only creditor that I'm applying with. So I go next door to a bank in America and I apply there too. And maybe I've taken several days between applications, gone and looked and seen that, well, actually I didn't make 50,000, I made 57,000 or 55,000. So I go ahead and I update that application with the actual number. Both of those banks are circulating and trading information back and forth to each other. They have what's called a give to get mentality. Wells, in order to look at me, wants to know everything that any other bank knows about me to make a decision. So does that bank in America. Well, they can then look to see that on one date I applied for a loan or a credit card and said I made 50,000, and on another I applied and said I made somewhere between 55 and 57. So that difference does not seem like a lot to us, but in reality it's 10% plus. So if you're sitting there and you're the person who's in charge of making those decisions, approval or decline, and you start to see little incongruencies like that, it triggers red flags in their system. It can even trigger a manual review. And if it's your job that's on the line and you're not sure, well, which one of these is accurate, you might go ahead and just flat out deny that application without getting any farther, simply because you're seeing incongruencies where the public doesn't even know they exist. So the Small Business Financial Exchange is one of the very first places that's going to trade that information about you. So when people come in, we want to make sure that when applications are being done, all of that information is very, very congruent. So that's one of the first things. That's just a easy example.
That's amazing, because you like the human nature of just, I thinking about it when I do something, I'll usually round up or round down, and those little things can be something that causes an issue for you down the road.
Yes.
That's actually shocking. So anything else that we do that happens behind the scenes that can cause us to get kind of kicked out of the system that people wouldn't think about?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example right out of my own life. So I was recently going through a refinance on my house. And about 3/4 of the way through, I got an email from the lender saying, hey, can you explain this business that you're affiliated with? And they come back and ask me for a bit. They say, here's the business name. You didn't list this as being somewhere that you have an ownership interest or that you are receiving income from. And when I saw the business name, my thought was, well, that's because I'm not affiliated with that business. And I also wasn't affiliated with the address. So what was shocking to me is that information, there's another repository called LexisNexis. They keep very, very thorough, probably the most intrusive credit report on every single person in this country who's ever had a home, had a car, had insurance, whether on their house or their vehicle, whatever that looks like. They're tracking all of this information. So your average credit report is probably anywhere from 35 to 50 pages long. When I ordered my LexisNexis report, it was 120 pages long. And it was literally every name I've ever used on every application I've ever made and all variations, every address I've ever had, every business I've been affiliated with, every email address I've ever had. The amount of information in there was absolutely staggering. And that is where that inaccurate business name and address came out of the LexisNexis report. So I had to go back and write a letter of explanation to the creditor and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not affiliated with this business. Then I had to understand how to go back and get that off my LexisNexis report. So LexisNexis is just a very, very comprehensive third-party data aggregate, again, as well, that's storing information on you. And not just on your personal life, it's on your business life as well. And information is not necessarily accurate in there. So you've got to know how to access that report, how to dispute that information if necessary, because there's a ton of stuff in there that's probably not going to show on your consumer credit report, but that can absolutely kick you out of the funding process for loans.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to dig any deeper because you're already freaking me out a little bit. So I'm getting a little bit of a deep state thing going on in the back of my head. So big brother, right? Okay.
Big brother.
the moral of the story is that you're well versed on this kind of stuff, and you can help people navigate some of these issues that are causing them to not be able to get the funding they need, and to help them get to where they need to go.
Absolutely, we can, yes. And we're going to verify all those fundability factors. We're going to make sure that their information is congruent in every place that it's showing up. And as you know, the internet is far and widespread, so there's a lot that goes into that. We're going to make sure they understand how to get to LexisNexis. We're also going to make sure that they understand what's going on with their check systems report. That's another report in the background that people don't really pay attention to. That's like your banking system credit report and score. That's another big one. We want to make sure that when people come through and work with us, that absolutely they are applying for money with confidence. and that they are not being rejected because of the perception of fraud.
Okay. How does the check system report in the background affect you?
So the check systems report, now, again, if you're walking into any one of these banks and you're applying for a loan, they're going to look at how you manage your money. They're going to look at the date that you open your bank accounts. They're going to look at things like how many times were you overdrawn? How many NSF fees did you pay? What kind of loans did you already have out, and how did you handle repayment of that? Did you pay by the due date? Were you 5 days late, 10, 15, 20, even up to 29 days late? Now, we know that until you're 30 days late on most things, on the personal side, it's not going to report back, but that doesn't mean that in the background, the bank isn't keeping internal records on exactly how many days late you were, even though technically they can't report you to the credit bureau until you're 30 days late. So right. Again, inside Small Business Financial Exchange, they're looking at, well, let's see, you had this auto loan with us and every month you paid 10 days after the due date. They're going to share that information with every other bank that wants information on you, because that's how they operate.
So even though you have a grace period, let's say on your mortgage loan, your grace period is not until the 15th. You're not technically late till the 16th. If you pay on the 15th of every month, that'll actually negatively affect you.
If you pay, you mean if you pay on the, like, one day after it's due?
Well, so it's due on the 1st. It's considered like mortgage payments. Mortgage payments are due on the 1st. They're considered yes. late on the 16th, basically. Yeah. So your grace period is 15 days.
Yes.
If you pay on the 15th of every month, that'll negatively affect you with that particular lending institution.
It can, yes. It can affect your rates. It can affect the offers that banks make to you, because technically, even though you're not late as far as the credit bureaus are concerned, you're still late. That's still information that they can share with you, or share with other banks, sorry.
Wow. Okay. What questions am I not asking right now? Because this is obviously new to me. This is a little bit of a rabbit hole. So what am I not asking that we should be telling the audience?
We should be talking to the audience about pretty much why every single person who's investing in real estate should be seeking really solid business credit for their business. So very early on, when I was investing, I had 4 different entities set up, 2 LLCs and 2 S corporations. And I would actually rotate which company name I wrote offers in week by week, so that as we were picking up and acquiring inventory, they were naturally being segregated off for asset protection. And had I known then what I know now, every single one of those businesses would have been set up with business credit that was attached to the business's employee identification number, otherwise known as the EIN, rather than credit that was set up through my social security number. And I really wish someone would have come back and taught me how to go forward and do that, because I didn't know. And because I didn't know, I went out and got credit cards in the name of the business, but they were secured to my social security number. So they never reported to the commercial credit bureaus. And as such, when I went out and tried to apply for an SBA loan through my business, because I didn't have any true commercial credit for the business, my SBA loan was denied. And that's going to happen to people over and over and over again. So there's no reason that every single real estate investor, every single business owner for that matter, should not be talking to us about how easy it is, how simple it is when you have the right kind of help to come in and jump into a system that within 6 months, you can have anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in business credit that you are not personally liable for.
Okay. So 6 months, you said?
Yes.
Okay, because the perception is you got to age a corporation for like 5 years or 3 years or whatever, right? So how is that wrong? Like, because that's been the perception out there. Like, how do you give me some tips and tricks to get your company in line so that you can be able to do that within 6 months and not have to sign a personal guarantee? Because I'm anti-personal guarantee. I'll be the first one. Yeah, I use 100% private money. I don't do personal guarantees. I tell everybody not to do it. So.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So how do we do that? How do we educate somebody that you can get ready to utilize your service within the first 6 months of their business?
Absolutely. And really what it is there's just been a ton of research and development where we now understand that there's 4 major or main tiers of funding that we can take someone through. We have vendors and creditors at the net 30 level. Net 30 is not something that we really hear a lot about, especially as real estate investors. Mm-hmm. You have creditors and lenders we work with that will provide credit on a net 30 basis. We also have an entire slew of big name vendors and creditors like Home Depot, Lowe's, HD Supply, Dell, Best Buy, others that will supply vendor and trade line credit. We have access to vendors and creditors that do fleet and automobile financing in the name of the business. And we also understand exactly where to go at the end of those three things to get Visa and MasterCard lines in the name of the business, right? So we have already spent the time to understand what each one of these creditors and lenders are looking for at the various levels, to understand whether or not they participate in reporting back out to the commercial bureau, because that's very important. A lot of times people get signed up with various lenders, just like I did, and find out later, oh my gosh, it doesn't report anywhere. So what we want to do is bring someone in, verify their fundability, plug them into that system, give them quick and easy education. And by quick, I mean 2 to 3 minute videos that they can watch, and then jump down to the bottom of their screen and go forward and apply right from their back office, knowing that the vendors and creditors they're talking to are going to be very interested in doing business with them. So the reason, and I mean, there's a lot of different lenders out there, and maybe some of them are looking at inventory or receivables or collateral or things like that. But the ones that we have grouped together, that is not what they're looking for. So we can literally work with someone that just started a business yesterday. And within a couple of weeks, we can start building their credit and getting them lines that they can actually start to work with inside their business. We've just taken all the guesswork out of it and put together that system. Is what we call our business funding blueprint.
Okay, so somebody day one sets a corporation up, they can start working with you and your organization. How much from day one, how much of their personal credit or personal income goes into play with getting things started and the ball rolling?
Well, that would depend on if, how they're already set up credit wise. So there is a cost to the program, but that's something that they can pay for personally and then deduct later as a legitimate expense of the business. If they already have some existing business credit, obviously they can use that credit if they want to cover the cost of the program.
No, I actually, the question was more geared towards like if I'm coming into the program, and I'm getting some trade lines set up for my business, like in the first couple of weeks, how much of my own credit applies to that? Getting approved for
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I understand.
Yes.
Yep,
I need to learn to be more clear when I ask questions.
Absolutely none. We are not looking at their personal credit at all. And that is what makes this particular program and this path so attractive is, a lot of times I have a lot of real estate investment colleagues right now that still utilize revolving lines on the personal side in order to gap fund things that they're working on. And in some cases, their credit scores tank horribly, like even down into the low 500s, just because they're utilizing their credit to get their business done. Mm-hmm. Whereas they may not be approved on the personal side to get an extension of credit, every single one of them can come over to the business side and say, I want to go forward in that program. And nothing that's happening on the personal side is going to factor into that at all.
Okay. So perfect. So somebody that is newer in the real estate investing arena, starting to get some momentum on projects, they set up a corporation, they want to get things started, they can reach out to you within a few weeks, probably have a couple of trade lines, and then they start kind of building some momentum in their business and building their business credit. And they don't need their own tax returns and credit and all that to make that happen, to get the thing going. Perfect.
That's correct.
That's what we want to be clear. Because that's the biggest fear. I think the biggest hang up. I know when I rebooted my career in 2012, I had a very large judgment against me. And personally, and I set up a corporation. I started working in another corporation, but I did everything cash that way. And then I paid off my bills and I started building the credit. And I did it the hard way, obviously. So apparently, that was now 8 years ago, but still. That's fantastic news for people to hear. So what I was going to ask you another question. I can't remember what I was going to ask you, but I think we got all the information out we need. I think the idea is just that people can use this program early on, and it's something that they definitely need to be working on. So trade lines are net 30s. That's where I was going to go. Net 30s are actually, we do that locally. Like we have vendors locally, window installers, flooring installers that we do net 30 terms with locally. And that was one of the things that helped me kind of grow my business, was being able to get those kind of terms. So most definitely an asset to have in a business, especially when you're rehabbing, for sure.
For sure. Yep.
Okay. So what would you tell somebody, like, what are some of the things they would need to have in order to work with you? Like, obviously a corporation or LLC, but what else would they need? If they wanted to reach out to you today, what would they need?
Well, it actually even gets better than that. Even if they haven't set up their business yet, they can still come through and talk to me because I can connect them to a service that we recommend for our clients, so they can set that business up if it's something they're even just thinking about. So if you're sitting there right now and you're thinking, my gosh, this is the time to go into real estate investment. I want to set up business credit. I even need to get my business set up. That's okay. You can still reach right out to us. We're going to take your hand and we're going to hold your hand all the way through that process. So, so we have a couple different ways that they can reach out. We can either send them out to sproutfin.com and then /flip talk, and they can click the yellow check your fundability button, or they can actually go out to my calendar and book an appointment to talk to me for 30 minutes one-on-one. We can talk about their specific investment strategy, what they're doing, the kind of money they need access to, what the timeline is. And walk them through getting started if they have more questions and just want to hear more about the program. So that address is BCB, so boy, Charlie boy, live events.youcanbook.me. Is there any way that we can give them something clickable? Because that's a long address.
Yeah, we can definitely get that in the show notes.
Okay.
That will be out there. We'll send it out in the email that comes out when this podcast comes out. So if you're not on my email list, people go to fliptalk.com and get on it.
Okay.
And you can also go to fliptalk.com/sprout to go
perfect.
directly, to the link where you can actually go through and do it yourself. But I think having the conversation with you, Krista, would be an asset. So repeat that if they want to book directly with you. Repeat that one more time.
It is BCB, so boy, Charlie boy, live events.youcanbook.me. And I've got appointments tomorrow starting just a little bit after 1 o'clock Pacific time for tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday.
Perfect. So, and you cut out, I think, and I want to make sure it was heard, that last part is youcanbook.me, and and you can book directly with Krista and she can walk you through all this. So I want to ask real quick before we wrap this up about, so right now we're in the situation in unprecedented times with COVID-19 and all of that. How does that affect services that you can provide? And I know you have something that you wanted a statement or whatever you wanted to cover real quick while we're on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Sprout is, we're being very smart. We're listening to the WHO, the CDC, local government, and obviously we're heeding all of their recommendations. So we had already adjusted really well to a work from home dynamic. All of us, so the entire company is still working and operational. We're just not in our office. So this wasn't a very drastic change for us, honestly. We're obviously very concerned for our employees and our clients. And, we want to do everything we can to ease their concern during this time. We just really feel like now more than ever, we want to continue assisting people with getting what they need for their business. It's such a challenging time right now for anyone to do business, but we as real estate investors can press forward because a lot of what we do is virtual anyways. We're working out of one office and we might be investing either locally or remote. So this is a time to jump in, to hit the gas, and to get out there and really get something done. So we're working very closely with banks, not just here in Arizona, but all over the country to understand if they are changing any of their lending guidelines, what they're doing. We're staying in close touch with them. So by working with us, you're going to have exactly up to the minute information on what we can get for you and how we can get it and what that timeline is going to be.
Perfect. And so right now, I think more than ever, having the right funding in place is important. It's also more than ever, important when it comes to just running a business overall. Being able to run your business from a position of power and not weakness it really is the difference of just having, the right funding in place. So I encourage people to go to fliptalk.com/sprout or to follow I won't make you spell it again, but rewind and hear Krista spell the link to book her directly.
Yeah.
And so with that said, any final thoughts before I go into my closing spiel?
No, I don't think so. I really look forward to talking to a lot of your listeners. I think this is just such a great time to be getting started in business, and there is a lot of money everywhere if you just know where to find it. We want to find it.
I agree 100%. So make sure you check it out. The fact that this is a good time to start in business is important for those of you who are newer, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities that end up transpiring through everything that's going on that obviously is tough now, but one door closes, another door opens. So,
yes.
If you are listening to the show and you find value, make sure you're sharing it. Make sure you're commenting, liking wherever you're seeing it. If you're on one of the platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, make sure that you are commenting and giving us feedback there as well. If you want to be part of a mastermind community right now, more than ever, community is very important. And so go to beinthisroom.com and check out what we have going on for our mastermind community. And we would love to talk to you if you're interested in being part of that. With that said, I appreciate everybody watching this today and listening if you're listening. And Krista, thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Thank you.